Everything is covered in a fine gray dust. Streets, houses, all under a deathly pallor. Only skeletal dry limbs remain of trees that once provided cool shade. A door key hangs from the eaves of a broken house, the only remnant of the lives that once inhabited it. On a dusty street, an elderly couple makes its way among the rubble and dust. Nearby, the owners of another destroyed house try to salvage what they can. This is what it looks like when a town is flooded, left underwater for days and weeks. What emerges from the dirty water and mud as it slowly recedes, revealing the utter destruction left in its wake. This is what happens when not one but two powerful hurricanes hit an already fragile region within days of each other, causing not only massive natural destruction, but the uprooting of hundreds of thousands of lives.
Ya antes del COVID, ya antes de los huracanes, era una de las zonas más pobres de Guatemala, con mayores niveles de desnutrición infantil, menores niveles de educación, etc. Y de hecho es una de las áreas prioritarias para la intervención para UNICEF y otras agencias de cooperación en el país. Y efectivamente, como usted dice, llueve sobre mojado, es decir, las comunidades expresan que ya durante el COVID, ¿no?, por la interrupción de actividades económicas, están siendo fuertemente afectadas por temas de acceso al empleo directo o al transporte para vender sus productos o sus servicios, etc. Y que, por supuesto, estas tormentas de Eta y Lola, que afectaron una gran parte de este territorio, han tenido un efecto acumulado.
When hurricanes Eta and Iota slammed into northern Central America in November of 2020, they brought added destruction to a region struck by nearly a year of increased economic hardship brought on by the coronavirus pandemic lockdowns. Millions of lives were disrupted. The International Committee for the Red Cross estimates that only in Guatemala, more than 2.5 million people were affected by the loss of their homes, their livelihoods, access to food and clean water. The town of Campur in northern Guatemala was completely submerged after days of heavy rains caused springs to overflow and water to rise more than 30 meters in some places, submerging the local school, church, and dozens of homes. The water did not subside for over a month. Erosion had blocked its normal runoff channels. People fled to higher ground and took refuge with friends and family.
Estuvo como 3 a 4 días estancada el agua. Ajá. Y yo más que confían de que ya no iba a subir. Pero cuando mencionaron otra vez de que llegó otra vez el otro huracán, fue ahí donde se llenó eso en cuestión de 24 horas. Ya pasó el tercer nivel de la casa.
Armando René Koch used to run a pharmacy in Campur. He says despite COVID and all the economic distress caused by months of lockdown, he was able to get by during most of 2020, avoiding the need to consider emigrating to the United States until the storms came. He was able to salvage a bit of his merchandise and is now working on repairing and reopening his drugstore.
La mayoría estamos comenzando de nuevo porque, digamos, las tiendas, igual pasó con ellos porque son pérdidas. Ajá, porque, digamos, en caso mío, tengo que mover mis cosas, digamos, camas, roperos y todo lo que tengo en la casa. Tengo que mover eso y más los medicamentos, eso.
but he is one of the few who were able to get back on their feet. Many began to think of migrating, to head to the United States, escaping the poverty, crime, and lack of opportunities that make this type of natural disaster even worse. Some joined a large group of people from neighboring Honduras who were escaping the same conditions. In January, 2 months after the twin storms, nearly 8,000 Honduran migrants massed on the border between Honduras and Guatemala in an attempt to travel in a human caravan across the country, into Mexico and then the U.S. border. The recent election of U.S. President Joe Biden had sparked unsubstantiated rumors that they would be let into the United States. They were repelled by Guatemalan police, dispersed and forced to return to their towns. But many experts and government authorities think more attempts at massive migration from the region are not going away. Cindy Hernandez Bonilla is an expert on human migration at a private university in Guatemala City. She says the two hurricanes, the economic crisis brought on by the COVID pandemic, and generally poor access to opportunities for development just mean more people will try to leave their homes to find a better future elsewhere.
La falta de políticas sociales que atiendan esos graves problemas que vemos en esas tragedias, que las muestran las tragedias, pero día a día esas personas están tratando de ver cómo sobreviven. Y si es a través de una inundación se les pierden las cosechas. Si es por la sequía, se les pierden las cosechas. Lo que vimos y estudiamos este año fue que en el caso de Guatemala, el desempleo fue un factor que afectó a muchas personas y se vio reflejado también en la deserción escolar.
For those who have stayed behind, aid organizations are trying to not only help with immediate needs, but are also looking to the future. An improvised shelter set up by the Red Cross houses a program run by UNICEF that is aimed at helping young children to cope with the trauma of losing their homes. Workers used colored blocks to teach the kids how to communicate about what happened. Benjamín Cruz is a social psychologist who works with the program.
El mayor efecto es esa vulneración de derechos que es la punta del iceberg, ¿verdad? Entendemos que hay familias, por ejemplo, que han pasado días con un solo tiempo de comida. La pérdida de oportunidades, la no reactivación de la economía después de una emergencia, la deficiencia o debilidad que tienen los garantes, digamos, de poder tener una capacidad para poder restablecer el agua, la vivienda, que debería ser lo primero, ¿verdad? En el caso de Campur, la gente regresó a sus casas en esas condiciones insalubres y es peligroso, digamos, y puede ser a lo largo un problema nocivo para la salud. Ya viene una temporada, por ejemplo, de calor donde puede brotar vectores, el Zika, ¿verdad? Enfermedades de transmisión virales, ¿verdad?
He says most of these children are now either in temporary homes or staying with relatives, but many were forced to migrate to other areas to stay with family, joining thousands of families across the country who were not only uprooted by the storms, but have chosen to leave. Experts say solutions, not only in Guatemala but across the region, have to come from a deep look at public policy.
Estamos rodeados de volcanes, estamos rodeados de montañas y hay que saber vivir con ello. ¿Cómo? Gestionando ese riesgo. Políticas públicas que vayan más allá de alertas tempranas, ¿no? Las personas viven en laderas, no por ignorancia, ¿verdad? Y eso es algo que hay que decir, no por irresponsables.
With climate change and predictions of longer and more intense hurricane seasons in the region, and the effects of a prolonged economic shutdown still not averted, calls for a closer look at public policies take on an added urgency.